Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and today we have got a really cool fish room tour for you. We are here with Kasha from Creative Pet Keeping. We're actually going to be doing this in two parts. I'm going to have a part where we do the other side of the fish room, and Kasha, you're going to be doing the tanks behind us, which you can't see, but you will be able to see them on her video. Now, we've got our special guest, your fish room.
Hi, I'm Andrew Piorkowski.
And you keep a lot of cool stuff, right? What are we keeping here in this fish room?
It's about 95% Goodeids. There's upwards of 30 different species and close to 40 different types here.
Now, what's also really cool is you have your own YouTube channel, and we'll put that YouTube channel link in the description below, and also if you check out the comments, I will pin a comment to that so you can see the fish in much greater detail.
But this is Characodon lateralis, Los Barros. This species was described by Albert Gunther in 1866 from specimens in the British Museum. Just kind of like a funny way to go about it. So he had never actually seen live fish.
Well, that's crazy.
It was one of the first Goodeid species described. That was back in 1866.
So the males have a little bit more color that we're seeing.
You'll see the males have the red, and also one of the defining characters of the whole group. They're also known as split fins, and you can see on the males, and over here as well, this is another type of Characodon over here, that it looks like a mitten with the thumb pointing forward. Hence the anal fin, the first few rays of the anal fin are separated, so the anterior rays. So with these guys, this is from Los Barros, from the state of Durango in central Mexico. So this is one of the more northwest, the furthest north and west population of Goodeids for the egg layer, or for the live bearers. The egg layers are actually only found in Nevada. Okay,
those are really cool.
This one right here, that could be a show winner.
Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous.
If only it was a little bit bigger. This is Skiffia multipunctata. It was described by a Frenchman in 1901, originally as Xenotoca multipunctatum. That same dude, when he was in his 70s, was fighting in the French resistance during World War II, where he was killed by a German sniper.
Oh wow.
Which I think is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
Jacques Pellegrin. The name Skiffia is actually, it was coined by a dude named Seth Eugene Meek, who was working at the Field Museum in Chicago, which is a really cool connection. Skiffia is actually the name for Frederick James Volney Skiff, who was the first director of the Field Museum. So there's a double Chicago connection with this fish. Skiffia multipunctata, the specific epithet means many spots. But it's more so variable spotting as opposed to true spots, even though that one does have more defined spots.
It's a pretty fish.
Oh, it's an absolutely beautiful fish. I really like that.
Do you think at some point that will get out into the hobby a little bit more available? I mean, how many people are keeping this fish? Like, let's just say in the United States, how many people do you think have this fish?
I mean, for a lot of the Goodeids, just Goodeid keepers in general, I think the North American Goodeid Working Group had estimated that there's less than 1,000 keepers worldwide.
Wow, wow. Worldwide?
Yeah.
Man.
I did a video on this, and I said it was the most underrated fish in the hobby that people just don't know about.
I would agree.
And again, this is a 20-gallon, unheated, simple hang-on back filter just with a bunch of guppy grass. And this is full of babies, and I have a fry tank also full of babies.
That's awesome.
So this is Limia species tiger. It's an undescribed species of Limia from Haiti. These guys differ from the Goodeids in that they are what we refer to as ovoviviparous. So they have eggs that hatch internally, and then the babies feed on yolk sacs before being born as fully formed fish. Whereas the Goodeids actually form what's called a tropitania and feed directly, the nutrition is provided directly by the mother. So that's true viviparity, friends. Like, I love it. But these guys, eggs that hatch internally. They're still very cool fish.
They're very cool.
And very prolific.
But they're not a Goodeid.
Not a Goodeid. This is a bacillic. Alright, so this fish here is Xenotoca doadrioi. also known as the red-tailed splitfin. It was formerly, here's a nice one with the banding that I was talking about, if you can see it. So that is one of the defining characters of this species. It was formerly considered Xenotoca isoni before that was redescribed into 3 distinct species. So if anyone's selling isoni San Marcos, it's actually the Doedroi.
Okay.
This is actually one of the smallest of the red-tailed split fins. Like this female in here, that's probably max size, like just about 2 inches. This is on the smaller side for a lot of the Goodeids.
So this, I mean, the adults here are pretty much full grown?
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
So the Goodeids themselves, like some of them, like the Skiffia francese or the Neotoca bilineata, are going to be about 1.6 inches max size. These guys are around 2, but the Goodea atropinus that I was talking about, that one could get up to around 8.
Wow.
The Allodontichthys robustus will be about a 6.5-inch fish and a very, very thick creature. Whereas these guys are just...
All right, so how many tanks do you have in the fish room?
I honestly wish I could tell you. It's north of 30, but I don't think it's quite 40.
Okay. Now, because they're Goodeids, now do you say Goodeid or Goodeid? How do you say it?
I call them Goodeid.
Goodeid. That's a third way.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The family's named after a guy named George Brown Good.
Okay.
So, if you were to say his name, it's spelled Goodeid.
Okay.
Good with the id at the end. If you were to say Goodeid, there would have to be like an AE in the name, and so I just go with Goodeid. Plus, that's actually how I heard Greg Sage say it.
Okay.
So I just went with Greg Sage. He used to be president of the ALA a number of years ago.
Fair enough. Fish room temperatures. This is a little bit different than a lot of other fish rooms. I'm coming in here and I'm like, wow, this is super comfortable in here. What are you trying to maintain in terms of temperature?
So most of the tanks are, like, basically everything except for 2 species are ambient to the room. So no heater whatsoever. And I do let it get down into the low 60s, especially in the winter. These fish are from the highlands of central Mexico, so it tends to be a little bit colder. The Zoogoneticus multiradiatus, those fish are actually collected almost 2 miles above sea level.
Wow.
So it's around like 9,000 feet, and they've been collected from underneath the ice. So with a lot of them, there's no need to run a heater. I mean, they'll do just fine. Some of the red-tailed split fins are a little bit more tolerant of heat, but most of them, if you were to go up and put a Goodeid in the 80s, there's a chance you might lose them. They don't respond well to the heat, but they do really well in cold.
So if you had to pick if someone were trying to keep these fish, what would be the optimal temperature?
I pretty much hang out between 64 and 72.
Okay. So that's really convenient for people who maybe want to have a tank but don't want to deal with all the extra equipment. Maybe just throw a filter or light, and you can hang out at room temperature and not have to worry about heating the tank, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with water changes with dirty tanks? I mean, you got some tanks that are close to the ground. Are you pythons and buckets, or how are we doing that?
I'm a minimalist when it comes to all this, and I try to basically keep it old school. Also, when I do my water changes, I don't take out much more than maybe 10% from any of the tanks at any point in time. With that, there's a much smaller impact for when you are going to be adding the fresh water, because for me, the main thing is consistency. There's times where if you try to do a water change and it's closer to like 50, 75%, or even a full water change, then you're basically completely shocking the system, and it can have a lot of negative consequences on the fish. So with these guys, try to keep it all simple. I just have hang-on back filters. I keep a lot of plants to help keep a lot of that of the ammonia from becoming too much of an issue, and really just kind of let everything be natural. Plus, when you end up growing a lot of plants, you end up with a lot of the junk and little bugs and stuff like that. And I'm growing a lot of baby fish here, so it helps that there's an alternate food source aside from me grinding up some flake for them.
Would you say that as a group, these fish are heavy eaters, moderate, or relatively, relative to like your typical tropical fish? Are they eating just as much, more, less?
I would say that they do eat quite a bit. A lot of my fish are, I wouldn't call them fat, I would call them very healthy. And I feed a little bit in the morning and at night every day. So when you come in the morning, check on everybody, throw some food in, and then move on out. You can keep a relatively high number. With the Goodeids, you can actually keep the tanks fairly highly stocked. For one, also because you're keeping the temperatures a little bit cooler.
Very true.
Things are gonna like go bad slower. And also they're a very gregarious fish.
So let's talk a little bit about just in general when you're breeding Goodeids. Did I do a good job that
that's
time?
fine. Good,
Oh.
good.
All right. So when you're breeding them, you know, my experience with most live bears is the typical guppies, platies, and yeah, they'll prey on their fry from time to time. But I found if you keep them well fed, they don't do that, or at least mine don't do that hardly at all. What are the challenges you have with breeding a lot of the fish that you keep?
So with a lot of them, I was trying initially to just pull all the babies, or pull the female to let her drop separately. Some of the fish are better at colony breeding. The Skiffia, I can let them colony breed, but the black Goodeid, the Xenotoca melanosoma, heavy fry predation. In the adult main tank, there is 0 babies swimming around in there. And that's why I have that separate 10-gallon setup with multiple generations. The Characodon audax, the bold Goodeid, especially the El Taboso, heavy fry predation as well. So I still try and pull females, at least initially, until I get to a certain population density where I would consider the group secured. I don't necessarily want to share any fish with people unless I would consider that colony secured, which is somewhere, like for me, I want to have at least 30 fish before I would even consider bapping one.
Right.